Amateur hour.
Like the Matrix, I'm like,
I can't stand that guy. I can't. My biggest fear when I was getting is like, if you go into therapy, do you lose your edge?
It's called angles.
Say anals?
Yeah. That's Pumper Town.
If you want to be fancy, hold your pinky up like this.
Yeah, I started this just to catch up with people, have a reason to have people over the house and have conversations, because it's really easy to seclude yourself and just become a homebody.
Dude.
It really is.
I'm a 100% a homebody. I'm such a, I guess, introverted person by nature. It's like going out and even networking or anything like that. It's like I have to put my game face on and act like I fucking care about.
Do you think you're always like that, or it changed as you got older?
You know, so I feel like there's. I feel like I've always been that way. I don't know I can talk to people, you know, I can, and I can bullshit and do that shit. It's fucking terrible.
They call it small talk, right?
Small talk. Yeah.
I hate
it's
that shit.
Terrible for me. It's really, I don't know what to say. I never know what to say in those situations. So yeah, I remember for a period of time I was reading like, what is the author's name? How to Win Friends and Influence People. Right. And he says, ask more questions than anything you have to say, right? So I started doing that, asking people a lot more questions because people like to talk about themselves more.
When
I would go into any situation, like job interviews, or if you're networking, or you're just chatting with people, or even like flirting with people, if you ask people more questions about themselves and they get talking, and it's like,
you want to do a bit right now where you flirt with me?
Yeah.
How would you flirt with me? That's good right there.
Just
That
like
alone.
that right there.
Yeah, I got all flustered, dude. I got all like, oh damn, dude.
The side eye.
But what point of your life when you start to implement that, the asking the questions?
It was like when I started getting into working in film production, because I'd had to go to a lot of like media markets and networking events to talk to these people who were like way smarter, knew way more, probably way more talented and skilled, and just had way more. They just many more years in the game than I did. So it's like, well, what the fuck can I do? Just ask them questions, you know, from like a place of like, what's hard is like,
ooh, let it be.
Asking questions and then listening so that you know what the follow-up question is. But it can't seem like you have like a series of questions already lined up, because it comes off as kind of disingenuous. So you have to kind of be able to listen to what they're saying and then be able to extrapolate a question from what they're saying. And follow up that sounds like you actually
just pretty much listening.
Give a shit.
Pretty much listening, yeah.
And yeah, so it's something. It's like you have to be so active with it, you know. And not everybody is awful, you know. Not everybody. There's some relatively interesting people that exist.
Yo, buddy, what the hang? But it's interesting though, because when I met you forever ago, you were working at a vitamin shop. You're automatically charismatic, energetic. Was that all just like you were putting on this like antisocial facade?
You know, so here's where I think it's kind of weird, because I think there's very much a part of me that when I get into a comfort or a familiarity, like a place of like, you know, I've been here before, I'm comfortable, this is my space, then I think that version of me, like that childlike version of me comes out, you know, where I can be like fucking weird and just say some off the wall shit and just behave like a child, right? But I would say like 90% of my interaction in the world, I'm like very reserved and just kind of like, you know, and I think it's like I'm like kind of gauging how to interact with people, you know, trying to understand people. And I also think that it's going to be so weird and cliche to say this out loud, but I think it's very much like a trauma response from like early childhood stuff. Because growing up, it was like really, really like home filled with like drug use and domestic violence, like consistently, you know. Dad was in and out of prison pretty much my whole life. drinking, drugs, the whole narco thing, you know, just that whole upbringing of like, you know, a Mexican American child in the 80s and the 90s.
Where are you from? You're born and raised here?
Yeah, I was born in Tucson. Yeah, I was born in Tucson.
And raised as well?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Born and raised here in
That's
Tucson.
I didn't know that about you, but the whole thing.
Yeah, dude, that was pretty much, I mean, that was pretty much most of my adolescence until like the last time that my dad went into prison, like my early 20s. But yeah, so I think that a lot of that kind of introspective, or not introspective, but introverted behavior, that sense of isolation and loneliness and stuff, came from being in that environment, being raised by a single mom, who was, you know, raising two other kids. And then, you know, a lot of shame, you know, like you feel a lot of shame living in that kind of environment, you know.
Yeah.
How do you tell people, yeah, this is what happened last night, you know, like you become very guarded with everything. So then that, I feel like over time, when you're guarding yourself so much, you guard yourself from genuine relationships with people, friendships. You know, you don't want to have people come over because they're gonna, you know, what if some shit goes down and you're like, fuck, you know, like they have to air my dirty laundry in front of people who are like my friends, and
Interesting.
you know what I mean? And so, yeah, I mean, it was like different periods of time when my dad was in prison, when my mom wasn't around. It's when I get in my most trouble, because I'm like, who's gonna tell me not to do this shit? You know, like my mom's not, because she's busy raising other kids and working, and so I was left home a lot, and that's when you start to get into a lot of your trouble.
But you know, that's for sure. It's very similarities to the way we were both raised, except for the whole dad in prison thing, but it's very similar. But I believe that's what fuels your creativity. That's why you're a creative person and a very self-aware person.
Oh, yeah.
Because you've had all that isolation.
Yeah.
You had time to like cultivate.
You start to experience the world, I think, from a very unique perspective. You know, you're not, everything's like trial and error, you know, friendships, relationships, how you interact with the world, how you view the world. You know, even like the friends that you keep, you know, and it's interesting how you kind of navigate towards people without really knowing them, who are they have like a similar, I guess, energy as you, or they have a similar persona. And you're like, oh, I know your secret. Because
Well, that's what happened with us. I mean, we have a natural chemistry. We have a natural. Every time we get together, it's like when we get in the mode, it could be about cinematography, right. Everything. We just start sprouting out all over the place.
Yeah. Our
perspective on certain topics. That's why I want to have you on, is because I knew that once we get comfortable and we get in the groove, this is a little, not everybody has experience doing podcasts. Like I'm still new to this, sure. Getting in the zone, being used to having cameras around. I'm not used to that. So I'm just learning as the guests come on, and the majority of the guests I'm going to have come on don't have that experience either. So it's going to be a little awkward for a while.
Yeah.
But that's why I wanted to have you on pretty much, was just to just talk, man.
Yeah.
But yeah,
but you're right. Back to your point, it's like I wonder what the amount of people who work in some kind of creative endeavor, how many of them have experienced some kind of like serious life-changing trauma or upbringing that fosters that creativity or that desire to go towards a more creative, and then those who are raised in more like stable homes tend to like have the blue collar or the white collar type jobs, you know, the engineers, because I look at just like my family, and I see like, so from me to my sister to my brother, the difference in between the amount of time that they grew up in that environment. Like my brother is relatively, he's military, you know, so he's military, and I think his biggest pain is like, you know, not having a father figure, but he found that in the military. It was
brotherhood and commanders.
Yeah, brotherhood and discipline and that way of thinking. And so his way of being is very much like militant. But, and then, you know, my sister has her shit, and then, but me, it's like, I was the most fucked up one.
But it's still funny, like, you go like, yeah, my brother, he's in the military, he has all this guidance. My sister, she has shit. Me, I got nothing. But you just got over your sister? Dude. Oh, wait, are you the middle child?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest, huh?
Yeah, I'm the oldest. So I saw all this shit. Experienced all this shit, you know, and so the way it all shapes you. And what's really fucking weird, I'm gonna talk about therapy for a second because
So wait, are you in therapy?
I am in therapy.
So
Yeah.
before this, Frank mentioned about like, man, I needed to go to therapy, and we didn't really touch on the base that if you were or you weren't.
Yeah.
So you are.
I am. I've been so.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
so,
cool.
Dude, and I feel like I should have done this like forever ago, and everybody fucking says that, right?
How'd you go about finding the right therapist? Because that's probably the most difficult thing.
It's like choosing a restaurant to eat at. It's like impossible.
Yeah.
You know, especially like when you're hungry and you can't decide everything looks good. Like picking out a therapist, it's like how do you? I don't know how you choose. You just find someone. You're like, yeah, they seem like they might.
Was
be
there like
chill.
trial and error for you? Were you jumping around?
Well, I just found one, and I felt like I'm like, well, I'm gonna find one who I feel like kind of feels like they, you know, I look for people. So I have other friends who've been in therapy, and I was just kind of doing just a little bit of research, like the different modalities, and I was looking for cognitive behavioral therapy. So it's like, I wish I could explain the modality better, but they really address like the traumas of your life, and then how to navigate that and create and grasp the triggers and then your response, you know, which it's interesting because like traumas are like, they're like the habit loop, you know, like I've spent so much time trying to, when I got into film, the hardest thing for me to do, because I came from like a background of like, you know, this kind of masculine way of being, of like competing in sports, particularly in boxing. So, right. So you want to punch everything, you want to hit everything, you know, there's like this 1-to-1. It's like you go train hard and you get this outcome, right? Then you go into this world like film, and everything's like soft, you know, soft in the sense of like the way that they talk to. I feel like it's kind of a dirty industry in some ways, like I guess indie industry, but I couldn't beat people up to get what I wanted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to. It's a different way of navigating the world. You have to talk politely. You have to be respectful. So one example of that is it was like my first time in like Hollywood. We were at this media market called Nalip. And it's the same organization that helped me get that the deal with Warner Brothers when I was writing that screenplay or that series for Warner.
Plug.
Like 4 years. That was like forever ago.
Put the link.
Yeah, and that whole thing came about. But my first time out there, you know, I'm like, you're dealing with all these people, and they you know, it's like there's a lot of arrogance, I think, a lot of like entitled kind of behavior
In that industry?
Yeah,
every industry.
It's probably true in every industry.
I was that asshole.
Yeah,
I was.
And I just don't like. For me, when I deal with that kind of, I'm like, I'm gonna fuck you up.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't like. It was like for a really long period of time, making eye contact with people, even walking through the mall, was like, it wasn't like an intimidating thing for me. It was just like a signifier of like aggression. Like I want, like if somebody's looking at me in the eye, it's like a fearful thing. You know, you feel kind of like afraid. Like, is this dude trying to do something to me? So I wouldn't make eye contact with people. So you go out there, you have to make eye contact, and then people act kind of funny and they talk a certain way. But one example, I was sitting down with a bunch of friends in a hotel lobby, and we were talking. And we were like short a chair. And I walked over to this guy and, you know, went to go grab the chair. He was sitting there by himself with like 4 or 5 empty chairs. And I went to go grab it. And he kind of made like a snarky comment to me, you know, and I kind of laughed it off and still took the chair. And he continued to kind of, you know, mouth off a bit. And, you know, I talked shit back to him. And the guy that we were with, there was like a bunch of other people, you know, pulled me away. Like, you know, I'm so sorry. He didn't mean blah, 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 you know. And, you know, we go through our meeting and talking, you know, about, you know, the WB project and just networking and how to be and, you know, how you can't behave in that kind of a ghetto mentality or something, which it very much was.
Dang.
And
so you acted in
yeah,
that
I acted
ghetto
very
mentality.
ghetto in that moment for
Can you
sure.
close the door, please?
It was like very ghetto in that moment.
You don't want the cat's meowing in the background?
No, because I'm like into what Frank's saying. I'm getting all these visual, like these images, like of like scenarios. Like
Yeah.
that whole scenario with acting ghetto. I'm envisioning most likely a restaurant you weren't even at, but I can see I think you're at a sushi bar. I see the bar stools. You're most likely not there, but in my head, I'm envisioning like a movie.
It could have been. It was a pretty nice lobby.
And then I hear
like
a
in
meow.
Santa Monica.
But I hear a meow, and
Yeah.
then I go like, oh, I'm no longer in that world. I'm in my cat's
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
Like the Matrix. I'm like, I get out of your world. So now I got to refocus. But yeah, so the ghetto mentality.
Yeah, so like just and I think that comes from just feeling like, a fear and of insecurity and feelings of like inadequacies and being intimidated by this new world of people who you always hear like put yourself in uncomfortable situations, and it's like, sure, I get that. In that moment I wasn't.
Just now?
Oh no, it cleared up. Something happened.
Oh, that's weird.
Something.
Yeah.
Also, this isn't the shot. Do you want that?
Is-
Your iPhone to be in the shot?
Oh, if you can move it back a little bit. That's why you need people around. Or a professional studio.
Right.
No, not you. No, you go ahead and move it. No, move it. No, whatever, like I said, whatever looks good. And then you might have to readjust the perspective on that thing.
It's a good thing you did this wide, because now you're gonna for continuity you're gonna have
right.
to jump that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if it's in, I don't give a fudge.
It's not that big of a deal.
Like, for example, the reason we're gonna be jumping around because we haven't seen each other for so long.
Yeah.
We're gonna be like all over the place.
Whatever.
But
You're gonna get like smelling salts and shit.
there's no
and
no way. I mean, it probably should be that way. Therapy.
therapy.
You
Yeah.
went from the ghetto mentality to therapy.
And I think that so much of that ghetto mentality kind of just it's hard to break away from that. If you
Have you not broken away from that yet?
I've gotten a lot better. I've gotten a lot better, and I think that came with age too, because now I'm 39, and I've only been in therapy for a year, and I took a little bit of break away because I took like 2-3 months away because I was like, is this shit actually working?
Yeah.
Like how do you, when you're going through therapy, how do you measure whether or not you're improving? So I took a couple of months away and wanted to just kind of see what I've learned, what I've acquired from that. And I think it's now, instead of becoming a slave to your instant emotions, in a situation, things kind of slow down a little bit. If you're in a disagreement, I tend to be better at listening to the other person's perspective, because there's always two sides, right? So you hear your version, their version, and the truth. My version's always the right version. I don't fucking care. But no, it's like when you start to deal with people, you have to slow everything down, and you have to be better at actively listening and understanding and not investing too much of your emotion in a situation, and try to pull out the facts, the details, and being receptive to criticism, being receptive to the things that you're doing wrong, and then owning those things. If you fuck up, I'm sorry, I did whatever, I stepped on your toe or whatever. Because it's kind of freeing to do that.
Do you think? It's just the gist of this all, everything you're saying.
Yeah.
Do you think you you're just sensitive and emotional? Is that why you react
I
in certain
definitely
ways?
am. Yeah.
Which is normal.
Yeah.
I relate very much to what you're saying.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to figure it out for myself
Right.
at a younger age, and I don't know if that's because of the federal prison time, isolation, and at an older age, and then going through the halfway house, and having to fend for myself.
Right.
When I got out, 'cause I had nothing.
Yeah.
Maybe that helped. But even then, I was reckless, man. I got a DUI right after federal prison, which is retarded. I mean, what kind of shit is that? Beep. You can't say that in this culture, right? I don't know, but I used to be like, that's what I'm saying. You haven't figured it out yet. You haven't deciphered those things that you're dealing with, because I just so happen to do so.
Yeah.
Not by even focusing on it, just, I guess, through never wanting to go back.
Yeah.
Never wanting to be that person again. And I would just figure out ways mentally, like, how do I not be that person I hate? And then I just naturally just change. I do play a big factor into, it's going to sound cliche.
Yeah.
Working out helped me a lot I have a lot of anger naturally and anxiety.
Yeah.
So when I work out, I exert so much energy that it brings me down and levels me out, and I feel normal and balanced because I exert myself so much. But then I do take a lot of supplements like Deca.
Yeah.
Damn, I don't know. I was trying to make a joke. I don't know.
Deca is not a supplement.
I don't know. I don't know any other steroid names. I was trying to say some more steroids.
I was
but
like,
I don't know
whoa,
any,
dude, that's
I
not.
don't know any steroids. What are steroids names? Like Deca.
I don't know.
Winstrol.
Winstrol.
Dang it! It would have been a good bit if I knew the freaking steroid names.
yeah,
But
yeah.
no, but I do, and it sounds like a cliche, but it's very important to people to understand that fish oil, magnesium, multivitamins, eating healthy is legit, super essential to
Or
mental
just
health.
Sleeping
As well.
Yeah.
But all those things, specifically if you're vulnerable or fragile, like I consider myself fragile.
Yeah.
Like I am. Like mentally, I can snap. I can cry easily. I can move around emotionally.
Yeah.
I'm all over the place. But if I have these staples under control, if I work out that day, if I take my supplements at night, like fish oil and magnesium and my multivitamin, and I know I'm eating healthy, it covers all my bases.
Yeah.
So if anything like lashes out of that web, like I'm depressed because I'll beat myself up all the time. Like, what do you do with your life? Look at you, you're not a guitar player. You failed at your dreams. Like you just have this negative.
I feel like I'm talking to myself right now. Like,
So yeah,
because that's I have I call them anchors. I don't know what everybody, but they're like my anchors.
Those are my anchors. Yeah.
So yeah, for me, like I can show you like my calendar. Like dude, I have it planned out. Like my day starts at like 4:30 a.m.
Too early, man.
Dude,
that's why you're mad.
Right.
That's why you're angry, dude.
Well, I'm in bed by like 8:30, 9 o'clock, and then I'm out. I don't have a problem sleeping, but I wake up, and then the first thing I do is like that first hour before I go to the gym is like I like to read, and then I've been back on like study Mandarin Chinese because I have a long like heritage in like Chinese.
I mean, if they do watch this, they're gonna be like, yeah, well, look at him.
Yeah,
he's a Mandarin,
fucking
dude.
nice. You can blindfold them with like dental floss.
Hey, but you said earlier in the beginning of the pod, you said you're Hispanic. So you're half Hispanic and Mandalorian?
So I don't.
You're half Mandalorian, dude?
Mandalorian?
No, you're half Mandalorian?
I am the way, dude. I am the fucking way.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I wish. Dude,
that sounds so cool. You're half Hispanic and half Mandalorian? Dude, that's dope, dude. That's so cool.
That would be dope. So I guess technically it would be Cantonese. My great grandfather, Sam Key, came from somewhere in southern China where I don't know the exact. I don't know where specifically he came from, but like in the early 1900s.
23andMe right there, dude.
I keep thinking about doing one of those.
She bought it for me for like 3 years ago.
Or what's the other one? Ancestry.com. There's a few of them different ones out there. I think what freaked me out is I started to read. I go down like the conspiracy theory wormhole.
Oh yeah.
Like
all day,
dude. If they have your blood and what information are they able to?
Well, that one's
extrapolate?
saliva, which sort of makes me question the accuracy because if it's not a blood and saliva,
right?
I'm not quite sure. Also, I'm not a whatever they call them.
Yeah, a paleontologist.
I don't think so. Is it?
No, that's a dinosaur.
Dude, I'm gonna have to clean these eventually. But Jess bought that for me like 3 years ago, and I haven't taken it yet.
Oh, what?
Or taken it.
Whatever.
Because I don't want to know what I am. I've never known my whole life. So my mom took hers, and she's like Mesoamerican or some weird thing.
Yeah.
Mayan. She's Mayan, like almost like pure Mayan.
Yeah. So my dad did one recently, and so my uncle had done one. I think it was 23andMe, and it said that we had like Apache. It was like something to do like Apache, right? And then my dad did one, and it came in more like southern Mexico. So it would have been back that time. It was like
Spaniardish.
No, well, I think because his like Spanish people obviously they divide and conquer down in Mexico, so it would have been Aztec. I think is what I don't know how they know if it's specifically that, but essentially that's what he was saying. So it's like Mexico, like deep Mexico, and then on my mom's side it would have been my grandmother, my great grandmother, and my great grandfather. They came from China.
This is the one of the goals for the podcast for me.
To do
is not to make money. Well, I wouldn't mind. I can make money. I just have to be consistent to pay for the gear that I'm going to be purchasing. But also the main thing is to get sponsors to give guests sick gifts. So, for example, 23andMe, I'm gonna have to tag them. I'd like to be sponsored. So every time my guests can come on and they haven't taken a DNA test, I can give them your brand as opposed to ancestry something.com. So
That's not your dad.
I would like.
Oh wow, dude, that's a Jerry Springer episode.
Yeah, I will. If
You
you
are
sponsor me,
not
I
a
will
Mexican.
have couples come on that don't know if they're the biological parent of, and we'll just do it, Jerry Springer. Yeah, we'll just do it. But yeah, hi. Yeah, that's what it looks like. I never actually looked at it.
I think you should do it right now.
You can't.
Oh.
You can't drink for like 30 minutes.
Oh, daddy B.
Oh shit.
But also I don't want to take it yet. I want to do it.
Well, you got to do it.
I want to earn it.
What do you mean?
What does that mean?
Well, I need to earn it in the fact that like once I hit the 10 mark episode,
Oh.
then I'll do it. Like, cause for me, it's more of the
So arbitrary.
my solo album. Thank you for plugging my solo album. Thank you for plugging Arbitrary Maverick Duarte on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube. Everywhere you listen to music. Yeah, dude, that's my solo album. That's exactly why I named it Arbitrary.
How is it doing?
Not good.
I mean, but you accomplished
It wasn't really
You
for
did.
it. I literally did it because of nobody knew COVID was gonna last this long, right? So during COVID, dude, man, this sucks because lockdown happened. And I was like, we thought 2 months was gonna pass by, 4 months, 6
Flatten
months.
the curve.
So I was like, man, I'm bored. I'm working. I might as well learn how to do music engineer so I can make use of my time. And then as I would do it, I'd procrastinate because I was like, eventually the quarantine lockdown will be uplifted and we can go back to actually physically jamming as opposed to me learning this technical stuff. Never happened.
Yeah.
So over time, I just kept getting better at the music engineering, and I just kept writing music. And next thing you know, what, 2 years go by,
Yeah.
and we haven't played. We stopped playing. That's last show we actually played was March of the quarantine lockdown. That's the last time I actually played Elysian. But that whole time, I was just chipping away, learning, just improvising, just writing tracks. And over time, the whole album came together.
Yeah.
And then I was like, what am I gonna do with this music? Elysian is pretty much not a band anymore. I can't this music's pretty freaking good.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised. I surprised myself because unfortunately, I wrote the whole thing intoxicated. It's actually a writing. It's actually a writing process. A lot of successful writers do this. They write with their vices and they edit sober. It's a very common process amongst writers and editors. Oh, let it be.
Booby trap.
It's a booby trap, dude. But yeah,
You're gonna do multicam editing. You have.
I know the pads. I know I want that, dude.
Well, you can do it on.
I need to
you can do it
buy
on
that
there.
stuff, man.
You should be able to do it with the number pads.
Oh,
You
you're
can
right.
Click 1, 2, 3.
I got to route it though through the interface. There's a routing.
Well,
I'll
when
figure it
you-
out.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out. I just got to get a real person in here to like do it.
Well, like once you get all of your footage and then the audio and import it into your editing software, then you merge it all into one, and then you have your 3 camera angles, and you just click 1, 2, or 3, and you can switch it to a wide shot
While
or
it's
a 1, 2.
recording. Sheesh.
Probably a really efficient way of doing it. You don't have a whole long post production process.
That's what I'm
because-
trying to do because
Yeah.
that's what discourages me a lot is the recording. Sorry, the editing. The editing is like,
Yeah.
gotta edit. I don't want to edit. Like this one, I ain't editing anything
Yeah.
at all.
Nothing.
Nah, why? What do we have to edit?
I don't know. This might say some shit.
Like,
What was I gonna ask you? Shit. I was gonna ask you about your album
oh yeah, thank you.
because I started learning how to play. I started learning how to play guitar about a year ago, right? And I was like,
But you've been trying to play for a while.
well, I've always wanted to play.
Yeah.
I just never got around to doing it. But then, like it was like 2022. I was like, there's 2 fucking things I'm gonna do. I'm gonna learn how to play guitar, and I'm gonna get back on Mandarin. And like I've been like in May, it'll be like consistently like a fucking year. And do guitar, like my fingers are. It was like a bitch. The first 6-7 months, I was like my fingers were always in pain.
Yeah.
And I was constantly like wanting to just like smash my fucking fingers because they wouldn't move the way I wanted them to move. And so I'm doing like exercises to get like dexterity in my fingers, and I can't like I have like an injury from boxing and then like a motorcycle accident in my thumb. So like being able to like move certain ways and stuff like that was hard in this area.
Well,
So
it's also your muscle too. It's like a muscle you don't really use.
Right. It's not there. So having to like stretch out my fingers and getting it to,
I'd have to see your guitar because you might have a shit setup. Like the action's too high.
Yeah.
Ideally, I mean, if you want, as somebody who's starting, it really is very nuanced and like at your age and you know, like you got responsibilities and you gotta. No, it just in order to like utilize your time like efficiently, you go straight to a nylon. You start off with a nylon because it's soft. It means you can practice longer and you enjoy it without the pain. Yeah. And so you'll get good and
steel
build.
Strings. Yeah, so the steel, it's like brutal on your fingers.
Yeah,
for
dude.
Sure.
When we met, we can go back to the first time we met, and you asked me to do the film for like. Well, I asked you or vice versa.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
the guitars,
that.
dude.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? Somebody just commented on that video, and I cringed. I was walking actually into the restroom, and I was like, "What? Like this video? I forgot too."
I forgot about that.
And I looked at it, and I watched it. And I was like, "This is bad." Yeah. Not the film, my solo. And I was like, I really thought
the film too.
I thought I could have won.
Yeah.
And I watched it. I was like, you are horrendous. You're the guy from American Idol who thinks he can sing.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I can't believe I had that so much self belief in myself that I was that good. And I can't believe I had a girlfriend that thought that as well. And I can't believe you thought that as well. And it's horrible. The film is great. I think you'd be proud if you watched the film again because it's actually really good. Yeah. And this is probably like. This is so many years ago, man. I think it was 2017, maybe
Dude,
earlier.
That was like my maybe the second year working professionally as a filmmaker when we had done that. So it's like, yeah, I go back and watch old stuff that I did. I'm like, oh man, why did I choose to do that? But at the time, it's what you knew.
Yeah.
At the time, it was relative to your knowledge as a creator. Like this makes sense for me right now. And then you look back and like, but it's cool because you can see the arc of a growth. It's like, why did I choose that? And you can kind of
you could sort of reminisce on that moment. You're like, I remember where I was in my life.
Yeah.
Mentally.
Yeah.
When I was making this choice to edit this way, or for music, it's like this phrase or this build up. You're like, I remember where I wrote it. I actually was talking to her about this recently. I was like, We're listening to a song that was never. We have 2 songs from Elysian that was never released. We're working on the second album during COVID, and it just everything fell apart because everybody lost motivation. Everybody got lazy and complacent, and we're listening to it, and I was like, it is so good, and it sucks because it's so good compared to the first album. The growth is substantial, but it's never been released, and I was like, I remember where I was. I told her this like verbatim. I remember exactly where I was at it was like 9 a.m, sitting down right here, tracking this particular part, this particular solo. I remember where we were at our time in our lives. And so this is the podcast is also this for me. It's a digital photo album book. Would they have the photo books?
Yeah.
The photo album?
Yeah.
To me, this is the digital realm of this. So say, for example, if we survive in like 20 years from now, like if we all die from a heart attack or something, this will live on YouTube. This will live on whatever platform exists at that time, where you can go back and like, holy shit, that's me when I was 39.
Yeah.
That's me when I'm 31.
Do you find that kind of stuff haunting when look back on like versions of yourself that used to exist and now it's like if you think of it in terms of like time? I do that. I do that all the time.
I'm very fortunate that I'm naturally optimistic. Very.
Well, not from an optimistic standpoint, but just from like a strictly like place of like existing. If you look back on that and you're like, that was me 5 years ago doing that. Like I lived in that moment, and then you are where you are now. You don't ever think about that kind of thing.
I don't know. Be more specific. I'm a little confused. Like, what do you mean? Like,
well, like not necessarily from a place of like reminiscing, but just existing, like in life. You existed 5 years ago doing, practicing guitar or whatever, and then you have like digital imagery, like whatever photos or now videos.
I love it.
It's like you're looking at a ghost because it's like a different version of you at a different time. You're doing something different, and then you are here now in the present.
I'm like I said, I'm fortunate enough where I like it because I look at it and I get very happy. I'm like, fuck, look at me, man. It's like I was set up to fail, man.
Yeah.
It really was. I mean, the way I was raised, my family. I mean, Jess has been through she's been around me long enough where it's been wild stuff.
Yeah.
And with the my background, and it's like, dude, where I'm at now, it's pretty wild because my little brother's still out there, not doing so well, and it's sort of like, I'm like, look at this house. Look what I got. Look at the
Right.
gear I have. Look at where I've come mentally, maturity, psychological, everything in general. Like everything overall that you can be. It's like, I'm just like, so when I look back at those photos of myself, I'm just like, damn, you didn't fail. Like you didn't, because it's very easy to make a mistake. In my position, with my felonies, I was told if I'm seen again in the federal court system, that I'm mandatorily getting 10 years, no matter the case.
Wow.
No matter what it is, I'll get mandatory 10 years. And it's really easy when you're a young, angry, like a sensitive, emotional person to easily fall into a whole federal law breaking. Very easy. You can do anything, man. Like almost anything's a federal.
What do you think was a catalyst for you, or a moment for you when you were able to kind of put it all together for yourself, in the sense of, because you were talking about being self-aware of like your feelings, and how, you were talking about all of that, being maybe isolation in prison, being able to be introspective, anything that you read, or
It's happened
philosophy or something like that.
It's
that
happened
kinda stuck with
multiple
you?
times. It's happened during prison when I was in the shoe, where it's like you're in isolation, just yourself in like maybe like a 6x8 cell. It happened then, but I was too young and inexperienced with like life, where you only can mature so much.
Right.
And then I got out of prison, and I was halfway else. I was working 2 jobs. I was just doing my thing, focus on just getting money because I had nothing.
Yeah.
But then over time, that faded away. And then, I don't know, the DUI was a big learning curve as well.
Yeah.
As far as being self-aware and maturity. Being in a band. I'm not a leader type personality, but I was put in these positions my whole life to be a leader, where I sort of cultivated that personality, but I wasn't that person to begin with. And being in a band, I was forced into positions because nobody was decisive and nobody had a vision, nobody had a perspective, and I always had one. So it was like, fuck, if nobody has any options to throw out there, then I guess we're going with mine.
Yeah.
And then losing band members, you're in this intimate group of people writing music hours, twice a week, 3 times a week, and then playing shows, and then you lose them. A new cycle. And with those cycles, I would learn. They would tell me like how I would react to them and how I would treat them, because I was very like tunnel vision, aggro tunnel vision, where I knew what I wanted and nobody's gonna stop me. You're in the band, you're not out of the band. Like, and you don't really talk to people that way. But when you're young and you have a lot of testosterone, I'm also working out a lot too, so I'm like, it enhances my testosterone. I was an asshole, dude, straight up.
Yeah.
But I learned that from the band members that I left the band, and we remained friends, and they would tell me how I was, and I was like, I don't see myself as that. And I was like, it is me then. So I would learn, and I would try to change that. And every lineup change for the band, I would learn something new about myself that I didn't see.
Yeah.
Where it was, you're an asshole,
Why do
you're
you think you
condescending.
behave that way? I mean, it could be, you can say hormones or whatever, but do you think that there was a specific underlying reason,
like
why?
a passive aggressiveness and whatnot?
Well,
that's one of the ones that I
necessarily
learned.
passive aggressiveness,
Yeah.
but why you behave that way? Because everything has like a source.
Passion.
You know?
I grew up in the streets, like legit grew up in the streets, man. My mom was a chola. I was raised in gangs, even though I don't look like it. I was raised fighting. But yeah, no, I don't know. I'm not. You're just trying to find answers. You're trying to figure out.
Well, I just
ways.
I think.
like that. I'm gonna watch this, and I'm just like, damn, bro, calm down with your attitude. You're trying to find answers. You know what I mean? Like that alone.
I think it's fucking fascinating, dude. To get to the underlying reason. So something that I learned from a friend of mine who's also in therapy. She talks about like every trauma or experience that we go through in life. It's like we have like a timestamp, and that version of us, whether it be like you as a 2-year-old or a 6-year-old, it's like a timestamp that stays in your mind. So and then it ultimately becomes sort of an unresolved trauma, right? And thank you so much. I don't really watch TV all that. I don't really so. I watch shows.
This
but
is the way.
I'm very particular about the shows.
This is the way.
It's not. Well, okay.
This is
episode or season 1, season 2. I haven't seen season 3 yet. I got really into.
Okay.
So I got really the last 3 shows: Chernobyl,
The documentary?
No, the show on HBO. It's about the nuclear situation in Chernobyl that happened.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's why I was like, I feel like I've watched it. Yeah.
I've seen the document and the movies, but I hadn't watched the show yet, which was really good because the show was written by the same person who did The Last of Us. I can't think of his name right now.
You could tell. You could easily tell by the movement of the cameras. The way the movement of the cameras, the way just the flow, his flow.
Sure.
I mean, I'm
I
sure, man.
I don't know. He directed it. I think he wrote it. So
Shit.
I don't know if you'll be able to tell, but I like what you try to do there.
No, but I swear though, like, because I'm talking out of my booty. Certain directors, you can see by their style of the way they move the camera, the way they edit, and there's a flow state where the way they film. I'm not sure about the lighting. But
well, if they use the same cinematographer,
yeah.
If a lot of times filmmakers they'll find their pairing, the cinematographer they like to work with, or the editor, a series of actors. I mean, Martin Scorsese is famous for that. Quentin Tarantino. Yeah. There's a lot of directors that are.
Who else? Let's see. I mean, I was going to see Adam Sandler because I just watched him get indicted. He got the Mark
Sandler?
Twain. Yeah, he got the Mark Twain award.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I watched that whole thing with everybody. It was really fucking brilliant. But yeah, well, he didn't really have a specific.
Did you see not Hidden Gems? What was that movie that he did?
Uncut Gems?
Uncut Gems. Did you like it? Oh,
Anxiety written, dude.
Yeah?
Anxiety written.
You gave.
What did I think about it?
Yeah. Did you get anxiety watching it? Because I know a lot of people felt like they.
Yeah, and I like that because when you ever see a film where they keep, for some odd reason, you don't know what's going to happen. They're just telling a story of this man, right?
Yeah.
But it's the way it's filmed and edited and the dialogue. It's like they're setting you up for every next scene, like something's gonna happen, and it's nothing, and it doesn't happen for a long time.
Yeah.
So you're always on your toes the whole time, and then when the end result happens, you're like, oh shit.
Well, it's like, so I'm trying to remember it. I remember it being very. There's always this constant state of urgency and like danger that's happening, and then around every corner, so it's like you're peeking and there's no danger there, and then you get to this place where you're kind of desensitized by the potential danger that's going to happen, and then it hits you when you're kind of fatigued from it, and then you're like, "Fuck, that's really good." So I definitely liked it.
Well, but my point was, when do you come across films like that? Rarely, often. In the commercial world. Because that was a commercially marketed film.
Well, I don't know. Did it go to theater? I think it just went straight to Netflix.
I think it went straight to Netflix.
Maybe it was like a limited release in theater and then went to Netflix.
Yeah, but because it is Adam Sandler, a lot of money behind marketing, right? But also it was word of mouth. Because to see an actor to see Adam Sandler for his resume, to play a serious role like that again, like he did in Click, which is like humor serious, but this was like straight up.
He's a really good dramatic. Most comedians are really good dramatic actors. You think of like Robin Williams or
Jim
Carrey, hero of mine.
There's several other ones. I mean, Judd Apatow was a comedian.
Judd Apatow.
I mean, he did the Joker. Mm-hmm. Joker #2 coming out. Shout out Lady Gaga.
I don't know how I feel about it yet. The idea of it being a musical, I love musicals.
Oh,
I'm
no,
cool.
it's a musical, dude.
Yeah, I from what I've read, I haven't read a ton about it.
Of course it's going to be a musical because of Lady Gaga.
I mean,
but could Joaquin Phoenix sing?
I mean, does he have to be a good singer for it to be a musical?
Auto-tune, welcome AI.
That's true. Yeah.
Boom.
That's really...
I actually...
the thought of the Joker in auto-tune is... hilarious.
Like T-Pain auto-tune.
All the way in Wisconsin.
Dude, okay. This is one question I wanted to bring up with you. I bring it up with almost every guest on here. Their thoughts on AI and AI taking over their field because...
Which it will.
Yes.
It's all right. It will. Like I see...
Look at us right now. I'm using iPhones. Well, iPhone 12, AI generated.
Is it AI generated?
They are. I watched a YouTube series. I watched a guy actually break down this camera with the iPhone 12, and he gets like super nerdy on like the whole thing.
I guess maybe the background, like the software or something like that. Maybe it's staying in focus. I don't really know. So AI generated. So okay. So recently,
well, the question was this though: do you think, obviously, ChatGPT and AI in general? Yeah. I believe this. Music, 10 years from now, good luck finding any musicians, right? You got to be like an Adele, super unique where AI can't really mimic that tone and that They can though. They already do it with Rogan and the fake deep fakes.
Yeah.
But that's for the music world, right? That's easy. Music's easy mathematically. It's very easy. It's very mathematical and very
They've been
easy to
doing that for years, haven't they? They have a formula to songs. I remember.
Yeah.
I remember taking a class in college where they broke down, the music and how, the commercial music, and it's all kind of like relatively the same.
It is.
Like I don't know enough about it to talk, but I just remember it's all relatively the same, which is why when you listen to the radio, everything fucking sounds the same.
It is, but there's some music that I would disagree that is that. But yeah, it's for pop music and commercial music, it's pretty templated, if you want to say templated.
That's a great, yeah.
It's multiple templates to it's really easy. So AI can do that. And they have done it. You can go on YouTube, which on the last podcast I did, I actually imposed it over the videos as an example. They do Amy Winehouse, they do Kurt Cobain.
I've heard those, yeah.
And they're not bad. And that was over like 8 or 10 years ago. Now with the new version of ChatGPT, which is version 4, that's just ChatGPT. There's other subsectors that are going on as well. And I'm sure they're not really focused on music because music is probably easy solution to solve. They're focused on more of a human behavioral tactics because that's what's going to sell to the military, to the government.
Yeah.
On our side or the other side. I mean, so Elon Musk and some other guy on Twitter, they said, everybody should stop progressing AI until we can figure out how bad can it get. That's
not human nature though. Like I know. Constantly pushing the envelope. It's like
I know.
I feel like humanity is constantly in this state of like fuck around and find out. Like we can like potentially weigh all of the pros and cons and be like, let's give it a shot.
But do you think? I mean, I think so. I've seen some AI generated films and human people, and it looks not bad.
Yeah.
Give it five more years. I believe they can just take the catalog of all movies ever created of all time since the 1930s, whatever year it was. Take it, put it in a database, which they have that now, and then they just have AI come up with their own algorithms and mathematical algorithms, and then they can create their own cinematography, film, movie.
They definitely will. I think so. Just already now, I know whenever we work with larger agencies, we worked with the agency.
Jess, is the thing good? Okay.
About a year ago, and it was with Google and YouTube, and they have all of the information, right? So when they were informing us how to edit the video, they had it down to like the types of shots that people would react to, like beat for beat for beat. So they do all the analytics, and they're like, you have to open on this shot. It's got to hold for this amount of time before you cut to the next shot.
Yeah.
But it has to be this kind of a shot because we know that this is what keeps, viewers, engaged.
Did you listen to the podcast with Rogan with Mr. Beast?
I did not.
You know who Mr. Beast is, right? It's wild how young he is and how brilliant and how articulate he is as well for his age. He was on Rogan's podcast. I highly suggest you guys listen to the Mr. Beast on Rogan's podcast. It's pretty insightful. He was so obsessed with YouTube before YouTube became what it is that him and his friends or people across the world that ended up becoming friends did that. They did what? What is the keyframe? What is that frame you use? Like thumbnail. Yeah. He's the one that created the thumbnail, like for YouTube. Every thumbnail you see, like the Mr. Beast is the one that did that.
Interesting. And that's based off of like a visual appeal that gets people to click.
He's like a numbers, like a data guy.
Yeah.
So trial and error, and him and his friends were like, all right, this color. So he gets into specific details. He's like, when you see my thumbnails, we slightly make my head a little bit. He says a number, this percentage larger in my head because we found out that this number percentage of my head being a little bit larger on the thumb. That's how obsessed he is. Data and numbers with what works. And he goes on the other podcast. I forget what other podcast he goes on besides Rogan. Oh, Flagrant with Andrew Schultz. And they're like joking, how do we make ours pop out of the algorithm? How do we do this? Yeah. And while they're talking, he's like, edit that out already. You already lost this many followers.
Oh,
and they're like, because he's so obsessed with the data. He's like a computer himself.
Yeah.
But he gets into details. I'm not doing it justice, but Mr. Beast, Flagrant, or Mr. Beast, Rogan. You would love that. It's a little overwhelming when you hear it.
It's weird because we're filtering all of the we're filtering like humanity down to like the most perfect version or the most acceptable version of this, and that's where I feel like art is going to ultimately be such a valuable commodity to humanity, because if we're over here trying to like curate this perfect version of us all the time, and then you have people over here, artists who are just focused on like the passion of creating without the parameters of perfection, and it's just genuine human emotion. I think as humans I think we're pretty good at balancing that out, that the idea of like perfection and then the attraction to like wholesome, genuine, authenticity. I think it'll probably end up playing in the favor of genuine artistry as we move forward, because we'll be curating these perfect podcasts, these perfect commercials, perfect movies, everything's so fucking perfect.
Yeah.
But all of the imperfections, that's the beautiful good stuff about
But you
humanity.
think
It's
that's
more relatable.
But you think that's because of your age? Because when's the last time you've spoken to a 12-year-old?
I feel like all the time.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Or you're being sarcastic with adults?
No, I mean,
Oh, Jess, can you do me a favor real quick? Can you connect the phones to a charger? Yeah. The chargers are behind you, please.
I mean, I have.
But really, do you really?
Yeah.
do you
Well,
really
I
speak to
have
12-year-olds?
like my niece, my nephew. I have a bunch of nieces and nephews. I mean, like just a total stranger, like you, like that
No,
when the
no,
last time
no.
I
I
walked
mean,
up to a 12-year-old at a mall.
That's perfect. No, that's
never
perfect. With that beanie, yeah. I mean, but because we speak to our nieces and nephews, and they're 10, 11, and 12.
Yeah.
Well, no, 9, 10, and 12, and they're just way more smarter and just self-aware than we were ever at that age. And your perspective on the imperfections in art, because art is sort of if you're good enough, you create your own unique
Right.
artwork, design, whatever, similar to music. And AI sort of striving to be perfect. I don't think that's going to happen. I think AI is an accumulation of everybody's data, so imperfections and perfection. And I think at the end result is going to be everybody's going to be in agreement that that's better than what anybody can do.
But even if they're collecting all of this information,
Yeah.
right? It's imperfect information about humanity and perfect information. It's all being filtered out to create this ideal version or representation of how we maybe perceive ourselves or want to perceive ourselves.
But that's just, it's going like this. And what you're saying right now, it's going like this, all this information, and then this is the thing you're saying where it's like it's thriving to be this like perfect representation.
Yeah.
Here. But once it gets here, what this is going to do? Sprout out to now you're like humanity.
Yeah. So then I think you create this segregation between two types of societies. It's like, have you seen that movie Demolition Man with Wesley Snipes and Sylvester Stallone?
Dude, when I was a kid.
Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of what I think about. They have the surface layer of humanity that's like everything is perfect, everything's polished, everything is convenient. Cars drive for you.
What do they call that? Utopia? What do they call it?
Yeah, it's like a dystopian
that's
future kind of thing. Yeah, and so it's very much that. And then living in like a secret city below is like humans, and they have like muscle cars, and they eat meat, and they live like people. Like we would older, obviously an older version of them, but it's those two lines. And I think you see that a lot even now with like people who are wanting to be more like boho or like maybe like hippie type, and then you have like the cleaner, more polished type.
That's true.
So, but I think there's always going to be subcultures in humanity because nobody falls into a single path.
That's true.
But we could enter a place where as a government or as a culture, they're wanting to cleanse humanity of all of its imperfections, and we create this North Star, like what we're supposed to be.
COVID.
Not me, man. They didn't get me. I didn't take that shot.
Not me, man. No, but I get what you're saying. It's to me, it's a very I find it a very intriguing conversation because everybody's perception is different.
Right.
Perspective and perception is different. I like to always recite this movie because it's old movie, but if you watch it again, it's still a 10 out of 10 movie, and those are hard to come about. Remember the movie AI with?
I just watched it like a couple of weeks ago.
It's beautiful, man.
Yeah,
My favorite part is the ending.
That's a Steven Spielberg movie.
But it's beautiful. The ending is my favorite. Humanity's dead. The AI survives. Aliens save him.
Right.
I love it so much because it's so beautiful. It's like, yeah, I love that movie a lot because it's very accurate, man.
Isn't it crazy?
You mentioned muscle
how-
cars. There's a scene with the muscle cars, and they're like demolishing bots, older models.
Right.
Dude, I love that movie so much, man.
Yeah. Well. Okay. So when I was doing all of the what's happening? You
Oh, it's me.
double fisting. When I was doing all of that work on with the motion control bots and the Phantom, it shoots 4K at 1,000 frames per second. So we were like
Oh, you're doing slow-mos like
yeah,
that,
all the slow,
like
the
that
high-speed
whiskey,
stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Venom.
And I think Death Wish.
Just, you know, he did a Venom commercial before UFC bought it out. I think he actually told me that UFC was gonna buy it out before Reebok. I think you're the one that told me.
Yeah. And I was trying to do it.
Yeah.
I was trying to do that spot when they were just an itty bitty little company, and then reach out to them, and it felt like that and Proper 12. When I did those,
That's
two
true. Yeah, you
spot-
did Proper 12 too, Jess.
So the whole thing the whole thing I was trying to do was, so I was like, okay, I have this really great opportunity, and I have this vision of what it could be. I need to find companies. So I sat down for like a month. It must have been like a month. And I compiled like this data sheet of every company that I can think of that I would want to target in different industries, and think, okay, what's the gold standard? What are the companies that are kind of on the outliers that I think could potentially reach that place, and anticipate those companies and get to them early so that I can create content with them, reach out to them and say, yo, like I believe in your brand, whatever the line is. And, and then be able to, sell them the content.
But sorry, we're gonna bookmark
How
this.
embarrassing.
Nah, that's okay. That's all good. Oh, we're gonna bookmark this. You were talking about. It's funny because you were talking about how you would pursue these companies that you thought had potential.
Oh, yeah. So,
and that you would try to
I would reach
pursue
out.
them
I mean,
before.
like Death Wish Coffee before they got really big, was
funny.
one of them.
It's funny.
Let's see, Death Wish Coffee, Proper 12. Yeah, that's all,
Proper
folks.
12.
They weren't big. He didn't get big until it wasn't until the
Connor.
Yeah, Proper 12 was shit until
But it was
the
a-
Cowboy Cerrone fight, when that was the first time that he actually advertised.
Prior to it. Oh,
so I
okay.
had shot it. And it was like I want to say it was like November of 2019. The Cowboy Cerrone fight wasn't until end of January, early February of 2020.
What a fight, huh? He was the only fighter who ever did this,
Yeah.
and the camera rotated around. They never done it since. And then also the way he won was with
the shoulder. Yeah.
Yes, what's up, dude?
Yeah.
That's art.
Okay.
It was just a red carpet, just
That
voila.
was like prime Connor. That was right after the Mayweather fight, wasn't it? Which was
Way later.
a total sham.
I think it was way later. But I'm sorry, the whole company thing you're like pursuing.
So
Proper 12 and
yeah, it was like, I'm trying to think. It was like Proper 12's Death Wish
Death Wish.
Coffee. I did a
Venom.
local. Venom was one, and then I did a couple of lower. So I had two kind of methods of thinking. It's like, well, I wanted to create a grassroots following as well. I felt like creating a grassroots following would have been a smart move, because instead of constantly championing yourself, you can have people champion you. Because and the reason why I thought of this was because I genuinely don't like talking about myself. It's embarrassing for me to talk about achievements, accolades, blah, blah, blah. I don't like doing that kind of stuff. So my thinking was, if I did something, if I created a strong enough piece, or a piece for a company that was relatively known in the community, then they could do all the sharing, and they could do all the marketing, and they can do all the build up and all the thank yous and blah that I don't like to do.
Let me ask you a question that you would ask me. I'm in your mindset now. I'm gonna pretend I'm you. So what made you what made you think about, like, why do you think you don't like talking about yourself? That's a question you would ask me.
It is, yeah. I think I don't like talking about myself because I don't like, just in general, I don't celebrate achievements. Like, I didn't even go to like my college graduation. And the whole point of me going to college was to feel like I because I was a high school dropout. I wanted something that would erase that mistake. Which in hindsight now I was like, I should have never gone to fucking college. Like going 2 years of Pima and then just working in film, fine. But to the original question, I think part of it is that I don't think. I think it probably comes back to how I view my self-worth in the way that I don't want to make a big deal about this achievement, even if it is important to me. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I know I did it. That's good enough for me. But I'm worried that people aren't going to give a shit. And I don't want to feel that embarrassment. I don't want to feel like, oh yeah, great, you know, whatever.
Like it's not matched.
Yeah, and so I would rather just like do something and then just go about my business than, you know, ask people to, you know, or inform people like, hey, I accomplished this thing. I want to celebrate it, you know, and have.
It's funny because this ties into your trauma.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
it ties into your trauma because
so much of
you don't want to get let down. You don't want to get rejected. So
rejection, all that shit.
Yeah, so if you become, you know, if you're like, I mean, I do hope you experience this and you finally figure it out where.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you a story because I read a lot and I'm working on a script.
Everything's all good. Yeah. Cameras. Mm-hmm. Both phones. Yeah. Okay. I just gotta ask because that's why my mind's like I get scared because I'm having a good time. I don't want it to be not recorded.
No, that's cool.
But yeah, you said
So I recently read there's a boxing coach because I'm working on a screenplay right now called Seconds Out. So I just read the guy and I think he's the guy that actually made Mike Tyson. I know people associate Customato with.
Yeah, it's Customato.
But Teddy Atlas is the man who was actually charged with training a young Mike Tyson because at that point Customato was way too old to actually train him.
He was just a philososopher.
He was a militant mind. Which if you read the book, I think it's Undisputed or Iron Ambition. Because
I really want to read that.
Yeah, Mike Tyson talks about Customato and how militant he was and how so there's a really crazy story about Customato that I read where he would sit outside of a window or like near a window for hours and he would try to use mind control on people who were walking past the windows. He would just stare at them trying to get them to do like I'm going to get this person to, you know, move their bag from one arm to the next by just like controlling them with my mind.
Who wrote that book?
I think it was like I think Tyson provided all the content and then there was like a writer who did
because did you
writing.
Listen to the podcast with him and Rogan, Mike Tyson, and he talks about Customato in like at the age of 12 at the orphanage when he got adopted,
right?
And he talks about how pretty much being raised by Customato, and he would get it's a almost 4 hour podcast.
Yeah,
I think it's 4 hours. Did you listen to it?
It's been I have,
long,
but
it's
it's been like a few years.
That was before he fought Roy Jones. Oh my God. He's
fighting tonight.
I know, dude, on Game Bread.
Is he really? That's cool.
That's
Masvidal's channel. Yeah, because
I saw
him.
Anthony Pettis.
I think Andy Pettis will probably beat him because Roy Jones he's been knocked out a lot. He's very, very old. He's still going to have that athleticism and that old man strength.
But we don't know the parameters of Game Bread as far as TRT and drugs.
I just don't see it happening. I don't see.
It's
an exhibition too. Yeah.
Fuck. Okay. Well, sorry. I'm like, when you said that, I was like, whoa.
No, it's cool.
But Mike Tyson with the
right.
The window,
the
backpacks.
I think that Teddy Atlas, or in fact, I guess from the perspective, because now I've read Iron Ambition and I've heard Mike Tyson talk about Customato and all of that militant and the philosophy and everything that he did, the way that he shaped his mind, right? But that's one thing. He shaped his mind. Atlas shaped his body and his skills and helped him apply that until the Tyson incident with Teddy Atlas's niece happened and he pulled the gun on him and basically from there Customato was like I'm gonna side with Tyson and Teddy Atlas can eat a dick. And
hold on for a second. Teddy Atlas.
He's the boxing coach.
Yeah, no, I know who he is. I'm just trying to get more familiar with. I forget. Was he around with? I almost said Freddie Mercury, dude. Was he around?
Roach?
Freddie Roach, yeah.
Yeah, he
In
was
that
same kind of. Well, Freddie Roach at I think that time was fighting, but there are times that coaches overlapped for sure.
Yeah. So, but like Teddy Atlas, who else has? Is he coming? Was he?
He was a commentator for a long time.
He's
He
the
had
guy who
scar
told.
on
He's
his
the one
eye.
that told Floyd Rose, "I'd fuck you up if I were."
You know what I'm gonna do? Because you don't ever give me a face shake. You know that? So I'm gonna go and let you talk to Victor Ortiz, all right? I'm through. They put somebody else up and give me an interview.
What are you talking about? What are you
You
talking
heard him.
about?
You never give me a fair shake. HBO needs to fire you. You don't know shit about boxing. You ain't shit. You not shit.
I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
You won't do shit.
No, that's Larry Merchant.
It is,
Yeah,
okay.
that's Larry
Damn.
Merchant. Yeah.
I'm trying to wrap my mind
But he
around.
did commentate for a really long time, and he's got the crazy scar. But he was on ESPN for a long time, and he does a lot of really good like breakdowns of fights.
I can't put an image to his name.
Oh Jesus Christ!
Oh damn!
Sir, he's listening.
Guess what I found? But yeah, so you were talking about how like Teddy Atlas. No.
Oh, okay. So the story I was going to tell you
Yeah.
is, as it relates to me and just sort of my struggle, is he started to train. Teddy Atlas it comes kind of from the same cloth as Customato in that he's a deep thinker, and his approach to boxing is also very philosophical in the way he approaches fighters. And he took on Michael Moore, who was like, he had gone through like a handful of trainers because it was notorious for being really difficult to work with. He was lazy. There's times where he would just quit in the middle of training. He wouldn't spar. He wouldn't run. One of the most gifted boxers ever, but he never applied discipline to it, right? So Teddy Atlas kind of peeled back the layers of this guy and got to this place where he kind of knew how he worked and how he operated, and it all came from like self-sabotage. So what he would do is he would create scenarios for himself, like he would go out and party and drink the week leading up to a fight, so that if he lost, the reason why he lost was because of that, right? So
And this relates to you.
self-sabotaging,
Yeah.
and if he would give himself reasons to lose, but never give himself a reason to win. So Teddy's whole thing was, I have to build up this man's confidence to give him a reason to win, so that he can really reach his potential. And it was a very tumultuous relationship that they had, but I think he really did a solid job of peeling back that guy's layers, getting him to a place where he felt confident and he could believe in himself and put in the work. And they reached this point where that's where he was at. He was like, okay, I believe in myself. I'm going to put in the work, until he lost to George Foreman, which was a whole other thing. But I think that's been a huge struggle of mine, because I didn't grow up in a home where confidence, like you think about what confidence is, and it's like, well, it's not this thing that's inherent, it's not an esoteric thing.
I would love to meet somebody who has it inherent.
Right. And so you'd have to, because even boxers or even any fighter really, I would say that the ratio of fighters who come from homes with, like a silver spoon, or like, the number of them that come from that versus the ones who come from like poverty and really broken
7%.
homes and stuff,
7,
probably very
6,
very small
6.
percentage.
Very little.
And there's a
Correlation?
I don't remember a correlation. You can observe. I hope I'm not getting it wrong, but you can observe the most impoverished version of society by looking at combat sports, because
The villas, Brazil, boxing, Mexicans. Right now, you have
Mexicans,
currently 3 in the
blacks.
UFC right now. 3 Hispanics, 3 different female, 2 males. Currently, right now, Hispanics. Any part, it goes for art as well. It goes for everything.
Right.
And she hates when I say this word. Adversity. Without adversity, I think it's Frederick Douglass who says it.
Mm-hmm.
Without adversity, there's no progress.
Right.
And unfortunately, that Joey Diaz immigrant mentality is a comedy special, I believe. It's sort of like you need
that struggle,
even
and the
more.
adversity.
Want to get
because
more
it gives
cheesy?
you- it gives you catalyst.
How cheesy can we get?
Pretty fucking cheesy.
Let's get cheesy, Rick. Okay. Without pressure, you can't get diamonds. You know what I mean? Like,
You just went full Rihanna.
you know what I mean? Oh, is that a song?
I think so.
But you also mentioned something I wanted to bring up. I didn't want to interrupt you because I have a tendency to do so. But John Jones for a long time was drinking and not training as much and doing coke before fights because there's two theories. One theory is like the competition wasn't high enough for him to get up because he's defeated so many legends his whole career at a young age. That was one theory. The other theory was in order to be that brilliant and of a fighter, you also have to have the opposite side. I just learned something recently, and I'm trying to retain the way they phrased it. I heard it recently. So it's pretty much in order to reach heaven, your roots have to reach hell. Something similar to that phrase. And it took me a while to think about it because even though you don't believe in heaven or hell, it's just a metaphor, right?
Yeah, I get it.
So in order to reach enlightenment or heaven, your roots have to touch hell first because you need a foundation.
Well, yeah, there's.
I just love it. I just love that saying.
The duality of
yin and yang
of existence. Yeah,
yeah.
And I think so. That reminds me of a quote from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, where she says that the kindest people that she's ever met have experienced like the most heartache and like most traumatic experiences of their life, and it's because when you go through that kind of pain, you know, and that suffering, it creates compassion and empathy for humanity. And I think that goes into crosses over into a lot of places, kind of like what you're talking about, where experiencing heaven. I think it's like you can't experience the fruits and the beauty of heaven unless you've walked through, you know, hell like that. You know, it's basically what you're saying.
I just
sounds more poetic.
Well, I just learned it. Yeah, I just learned it, and I was like, I need to attempt to recite this during conversations so that I learn how to articulate it correctly over time. Put my reps in. Even though I'm doing it, not saying it correctly, but you get the imagery, right?
Right.
You can see like a tree. Yeah. Like a tree can't grow without its foundation, and the foundation starts from the bottom.
Yeah.
And the fact that whoever said it, I forgot who it was. I think it was Tolkien or somebody said it. I think Tolkien's from Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah.
I
feel like I can.
Tolkien is Lord of the Rings.
J.R. Tolkien, is that it? Yeah.
I'm making up the names, but the point is when I heard it on the pod, I saw the imagery and I was like, that is beautiful. It's the roots.
Feels very like what is the imagery of like the Scandinavian tree that connects to like Midgard? Is it Midgard?
Thor?
Yeah.
Asgard.
Well, yeah, it's like there's like Midgard and then there's Asgard and there's that tree that is like that Scandinavian symbolism. I can't remember. There's a name for it. You see it. I see it all the time.
I don't know. But just so you guys know, we haven't seen each other. And when's the last time we've seen each other?
I was at a fight.
You didn't have that much gray hair.
That's true, but I also haven't got a haircut in a little while. So.
But last time we seen each other,
it's been, huh? I think like a year and a half. Has it been that long?
It feels longer to me.
It feels a little bit longer because it was at your old house. I went over for a fight.
You're right.
I went over for a fight,
You're
and
right.
you remember you were telling me we were talking about tuna, and you were telling me about those tuna cups that you love.
We talked about some more cooler things.
Well, I mean, that's what.
Hey, man.
I remember the tuna because every time I go buy tuna, I'm like, oh shit, Mav likes these.
But we talked. Like I remember this. I remember that last time we hung out. I was like, man, I need to hang out with them more. Yeah. That's how I felt.
Well, we always say that whenever we start talking on like Instagram or something, we start getting into these really deep conversations about all kinds of shit, and we're like, dude, we really got to hang out. And then,
but now that I have a house, man.
5 minutes later, like,
but I have a house now. So for me, it's like, you know, this is the pod. Like, it gives me a reason, to invite people that I've always wanted to talk to that I've never. I have talked to before, but now this is like. We can talk even longer than this, but we can get to like details and so on and so forth. Yeah. But there's certain people in the world in music that I've been wanting to talk to that I've been around for a long time. Yeah. For example, Matty Hoffman. I've known him for the day I got out of prison. I went to Bookman's to play guitar. I'm playing guitar and I'm kicking ass. I think so, right? I thought I was good. And I'm thinking, like, just shredding. Everybody's looking at me. I think the world's looking at me.
In the middle of Bookman's?
Yeah. But I actually have a picture that I ended up performing there, actually, and getting paid. But that wasn't then. I thought I was being good, kicking ass, shredding, whatever the fuck. I leave, fucking ego high, walking out like, yeah, those motherfuckers don't know anything. I literally thought that. I literally was walking out. I was like, psh, they know what's up. And I'm walking out, and I hear somebody else playing, and I was like, uh-oh. It's like, I was... didn't want to believe it. I was like, it sounds better than me. Yeah. Equally or better. And it obviously was better. And I was like, fuck. I'm walking out full on ego. Like, I just shredded this place up. Yeah. And I hear him and Maddie. And this is before I even solo. I couldn't even solo at all. Yeah. And he's soloing. Well, he's just doing classical scales. And so I go, I'm like, what the hang? I'm like, what the hang? And then I meet him, like, hey, man, what the? Did you hear me play? Nope. Of course, because I wasn't even worthy. And I was like, dude, we should start a band. Like, remember, I just got out of prison. I have nothing. And I'm like, dude, you're so great. Like, we should just start a band. And he's like, oh, well, I have a studio at my house. You have a studio? This is back when home studios were a rarity, man. Yeah. This is back. So I got out of prison when I was 21. So I'm 31 now, dude. So over 10 years ago, before studio gear was even like accessible to everybody. Right. He's like, I have a studio at my house. And he's like, look at my MySpace. Or he looks at something, Facebook or MySpace, whatever. He's like, look at my studio. I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, whoa. I'm living in a halfway house, taking buses and skating, man. You know? I'm like, whoa. And he's like, yeah, we should start a band. He never hit me up after that. But we've always been playing shows here and there. Yeah. I see him progress. I'm progressing. Over a decade, dude. That's cool. And I'm like, yo, man, you want to come do the pod? Hell yeah. He's like, fuck yeah. I pick him up. I know where his mom lives because I picked him up before a show we had at The Rock. I pick him up. He was asleep, this motherfucker. They were next online, and his guitar player, David Gorst, his guitar player, is like, dude, he doesn't have a car. He's like, dude, we're coming up next. Can you pick up Maddie? I was like, what? He's next? I pick up Maddie at his mom's house. He's waking up. I'm like, bro, typical rock star move. Because he's a fucking killer. He's the lead. He's a fucking badass. I pick him up. But he's waking up, you know, and I just drive him to The Rock. Never any conversation. And so anyways, the point is that I hit him up on Instagram. I was like, hey, man, when you come back into town, you fucking tour the whole year. Do the pod. Does the pod.
That's cool.
Does the pod. He's going to do it again. I'm not going to edit this out. He knows. We're doing it again. Is it stopping?
It's about to.
All right. We'll hold on real quick. Yeah, and it was great, man. But that's the point of the pod, though. It's a digital photo album book. Right. Also an excuse. DysFUNctional. You haven't seen the font yet, and you haven't seen the intro video yet. But I'll show you after this. Cool. Well, they'll see it after this. But I'm all over the place right now because now I'm a little buzzed, guys. There's no. It's not professional. Are you professional here? No. But yeah, I find it intriguing that I think it's not uncommon that I'm a little afraid that when I get to your age that I might start to contemplate certain things that you are because were you thinking about these things when you were 31? When you were 31, were you thinking this?
Not this. I think I've always been aware of the inner monologue and the struggle, but didn't know what to do, and so I would always channel it through, you know, like aggressive ways, you know, because it's like you hear people talk about, you know, the iron paradise, you know, it's like you go and you're going through, instead of therapy, you go and you work out, right? Because instead of therapy, you go to work out, but it's like, well, yeah, I get it. It does help a lot for mental health, but it doesn't resolve the issues. You're on a cycle. You're on the cycle where you're constantly going through. So I think for me, it's like I need solutions. I like solutions. I like taking pragmatic approaches to problems and, you know, pulling back layers, trying to get to like the source of things, trying to understand it, deepen my understanding. What causes it? How do I anticipate it? How do I get better so that I can improve? You know, when I started in therapy, I remember the first thing I said to the therapist was, I want self-mastery. And I don't know how to define what that means yet, but I'm here to figure that out. And it starts with addressing the things that I know are the biggest issues. And that goes back to like childhood shit.
It's your baseline issues.
And it's like, what are these issues that have informed, I mean, so many different areas of my life, you know, because what's interesting is it's like, you know, I look and I see my life and I think, you know, sometimes I feel like I've lived like so many fucking lives, you know, like I'm like, holy shit,
That's a good thing. That's a good thing, by the way.
At this age or whatever. But I'm really happy and proud of what I've done, even in that state of mind, because it tells me that it's like, you know, talent and skill is there. It comes down to eliminating as many of these barriers, you know, that prohibit me from reaching my potential.
Such as
I think just the self-sabotaging is a big thing. it's interesting because it's like
very
how do you
interesting.
how do you define confidence? Because if I had the confidence to walk into a studio and pitch myself on and tell them like why they should hire me as a director and they should allow me to direct all
This
these
is
things,
confidence.
right? Yeah, this is an example, but still, doing those things. And I think is it one of those things where you fake it till you make it, or is there confidence but with little asterisks, confidence, but you're gonna have to deal with a lot of these weird insecurity feelings. You have to find a way to deal with them. And I think my biggest fear when I was getting is like if you go into therapy, do you lose your edge? Because everything that made you successful up to that point.
That's funny. You're
You
funny,
know,
dude. You're funny
you
because
know-
because what you're everything you're saying, I'm like, there's everything I know what's going on.
Yeah.
It just takes a lot of time of conversating where like I see what's going on because I've been through it. So I'm
Yeah.
like, there's ways to solve it, but you need a solid
Yeah, dude.
understanding.
I like to understand shit.
Yeah, and
you know?
not on the pod right now because I'm a little concerned about the limitations of my freaking gear. I can get into it, and it feels a little weird because I don't feel like I don't know the word that I have the I don't know. I don't feel like I'm able to. I don't have like not the respect, but I don't have the repertoire to
Sure.
tell you what's going on because it's what you're going through, and I know what you're going through because I've been through it.
Yeah.
It's very common. It's like it's just you got to go through it, and you overthink things a lot.
Oh, dude, it's
You're overthinking a little bit too much.
Dude, I definitely overthink things, and I don't really know why that happens. Why
It's
like
normal.
I think for me, like I've always been very observational and curious, and I think when you're observational and curious by nature, you tend to overthink or overanalyze all the pros and cons and everything, and it satiates my curiosity to be able to understand things. When you talk about like musical theory, or learning how to play, I'm like, so how did you arrive at a place where you knew what chords were, and how did you practice, and how did you know how to create music and all that kind of stuff?
Let me
break.
break it down to you because I think as of right now, as you're getting older, I think for everybody and anybody, as you get older, it becomes a little bit more difficult to learn something new because depending on your health and what you do,
Neuroplasticity, yeah.
Apparently it's new studies where it doesn't really there's no decline in neuroplasticity
Right.
apparently. So I'm just using that as an example.
I think when I to that
when you
point,
get older, it's harder to learn.
Well, that's only because the amount of time that you have to dedicate to a particular skill set is diminished. Because when you get older,
Yeah.
your life gets filled up with responsibilities, family, kids, everything that's involved with all those, being a husband, being, going to games and all that shit, right?
Sabotaging yourself.
So you lose the time that you need to be able to do that. I don't have any of that shit, like I don't have those limitations. So
But you do have though? The voice in your head.
Right.
Consistently defeating you.
Right.
Yeah.
Which through deepening that understanding of like, okay, every little moment of self-sabotage is like this, something happened in my life to tell me like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool. Let's have a conversation about this. Let's figure this shit
Yeah.
out. Like, why is that happening? So once you have that conversation in the mirror, and you face that shit, then you could just kind of like put it away.
So
and
where
you
you
don't
at
have to deal
now?
with it.
Where are you at now though?
I'm more in that place now where when I sense something or something going on or you hear that little voice, instead of like giving into it, it's more of like, okay, cool, like I see you, I see what's going on, I'll just kind of have that conversation with it and then move the fuck on, and
Yeah.
not let it control your psychology, which again, for me, it's a really fucking new thing. The last year of recognizing that, because you hear trauma, you hear people so much talk about it, and it's become so like stigmatized, and people talk about anxiety and all
Let
that.
me quote Charlemagne the God.
Oh God.
Mental health.
Let me
Mental
take
health.
a sip real quick.
You're drinking water.
I can't.
But I get
I
what you're
can't
saying.
stand that guy.
Really?
He just rubs me the wrong
it's
way.
really odd, dude. It's really interesting for me. Where like I don't know what happened, man, but like I like anything and everything. I'm not. I mean, not gay. No disrespect, but I mean like in the sense of like
Canceled.
I like things that are like obnoxious and wild and absurd. Where I'm like, what the hang? And then the vice versa. I'm like, people who agree with me. I just like I'm in a weird position where I understand everything.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what it is. I don't know what happened. I don't know.
I think it's I think it's fascinating that you, because I've been thinking about this the entire time we were talking, and I want
Mammoth balls?
Mammoth balls. No, that's so weird.
That's pretty cool.
That's so fucking.
It's pretty
weird.
fucking cool.
You can't even eat it because of the proteins in it haven't existed for over 5,000 years, so they don't know how people would digest it or deal with it, or what kind of bacteria.
Diarrhea like crazy.
Yeah, it'd be fucking weird. But so something you had said, because you had went to prison, you know, so early in your life, and I thoroughly believe that probably the scariest place that you can be in your life is in an isolated state where you're dealing with your own introspection and your own thoughts and all of that stuff. And
Correct.
so when you're in prison, you're very outside of. There's a lot of time you're spent alone. You know.
There's not though. Not when you're 18. Majority of people are aware.
Sure.
Going to college.
Yeah.
They're stressing out about high school. I was in a fucking tank, you know?
Yeah.
And I got time to do 24 hours a day for months. Just think.
Think.
Everybody's, as a kid, you're distracted by your parents,
Right.
college.
But do you think in that period of time you were
No.
able to be introspective? You were able to get it
So-
because it sounds like you kind of did.
Okay, so this is gonna sound weird, guys, but I do mean this, and I don't, I understand the perspective of people. I don't believe in ghosts, and I know people do believe in ghosts and all this stuff, but this is gonna go hand in hand with.
Did you see the Virgin Mary in your fucking tortilla?
No, not Teddy Atlas. I'm gonna say Tyson Fury. Mike Tyson. Casamato.
Yeah.
The whole story you're telling about him staring out the window and trying to manipulate people, putting their backpacks and stuff like that. Dude, I was in the shoe for so long, which it could be my own perception. It's sort of like but when I got out of prison, I was working at Twice as Nice. I used to be able to I still believe it because I used to be able to, for fun, manipulate people's energy when I was at Twice as Nice, the retail clothing store. And I was like, I can do this just by exerting specific energy out of my body, not my mind, but my body. Like, can I make you attracted to me? Can I make you nervous? Can I make you anxious?
Yeah.
And I was young and I was like, I can do it. And I was doing it. And I was doing it often because I had so much time to hone in on myself so much, energy-wise, that I was able to do so. And it worked for a while. But as I was out in civilization, like society, it would gradually go away because I was no longer meditating as long.
Sure.
It went away. So you were telling me a whole story with Customato. I was like, I know it sounds mystical and so on and so forth, but I did do it, man. And it sounds cheesy, but I give this example for those who want to believe that what I'm saying is fictional or weird, and just weird in general. Say you're in a group of people, right, and you feel awkward, right? You can change that if you're literally honed in on yourself.
Right.
For example, if I felt anxious when you were here because I didn't want to talk to you, I didn't want to I just wanted to make sure everything was perfectly set up, so everything ran great. So I was anxious.
Yeah.
But I can change that. You feel the way when you talk to people, right? You haven't met you meet like a high school person, a high school person, and it's the weird oh hey, I missed you, but you're not really genuine. You feel that energy? How there's this weird awkward energy.
Yeah.
You can manipulate those, but it's insanely difficult because you need a lot of time of meditating and learning yourself to control. But it went away, man, fast. But it's true.
I definitely.
Custom model's a little weird though, the backpack thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it sounds like a lot of what you're talking about is like manipulate, like art of seduction.
It's just energy.
You're seducing moments,
but it's
you
just
know, it is
energy,
energy, and seducing. You know, you talk about seducing people, or you know, can I get this person to be attracted to me? Can I get?
It worked.
You know,
I did it.
No, I believe you, because one of my biggest flaws is having kind of a manipulative behavioral patterns and getting people to do
you
what
an escort?
Huh?
You an escort?
No,
Okay.
no.
Well, with that smirk.
But you know, like but I think we're constantly in a state of like negotiating with people. We always want something. There's every day we're negotiating in life.
Do you think that's might be one of your issues though?
Negotiating?
Do you think that people just want? Because
I do. People want something all the time. Every interaction.
I wanted this. I want even without the pod.
Right.
Even without it, I wanted to just hang out.
Right, and so it's not completely. I hate to like narrow it down to just being completely transactional, but I do think that there's a seductive nature and a manipulative nature and just an exchange of energies that goes on with, you know, every interaction you have in life.
You need exchange.
But if you open a door for somebody, it's like you may not think it, but you want to be thanked. You want to be you know, acknowledged for doing an act of kindness, right? You may not think that you do, but if you don't get it and you walk away, you're like, you unappreciative motherfucker. But if they say thank you so much, it makes you feel good, right? So it's transactional, and it's like there's an inherent like feeling of like wanting that. Even like the idea of love is it's very transactional, you know, like it's weird to me when people say things like love is unconditional, and it's not true. I don't think that love
was
is
that John Lennon? Was that not John Lennon? Was that
I think love is very conditional. It's conditional upon me giving something that feeds you and you giving something me that feeds me, and being consistent with it, and being able to understand our love languages and being able to consistently give and take and give and take. That it's and if I were to remove any of those things that make you feel loved from it, then your conditions are no longer being met, and you probably are not going to stay. So everything in my mind is open for negotiation. Everything can be seduced and manipulated. If you turn it to the dark arts, that's a completely different thing. But if it can at least acknowledge that and navigate that from a healthy perspective, I think that anything is possible. I think that you can, you know, even part of the book that I was telling you about earlier, Winning Friends and Influencing People, you ask people about themselves. Why? So they open up, so they feel good. People like to talk, and interaction.
That's a manipulative tactic,
right? It is, but you know, it's manipulative because you're talking to somebody and you're trying to uncover what it is that you want from them, and you know, and you're trying to make them feel good. Like I had a conversation with somebody once. I didn't tell them anything about myself. It was just constant questions. Then by the end of it, they're like, "You're a really good conversationalist." I didn't say it, and I don't even think you know my name. You know. But because you're asking and they're opening up, like they think that you're a great conversation.
You're pretty much resorting to what you're not. It's not a bad thing. I think you're putting a negative connotation onto the who you are. I think that's what's going on. You're self-defeating yourself even in this conversation. And it's like, I don't think you've accepted. It's who you are is pretty much just once you accept it. Just this. That's what you to just accept, because you're pretty much almost like me, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I've accepted it because I have been told by people that I truly loved that like you're a manipulative something, so on and so forth. It was long ago, and I'm like, I'm not though, man. All I care is about your best interest and my best interest. Like I'll sacrifice my best interest for you because I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
But they said it to me, and I was like. Why would you tell me that? Because I'm not manipulating you for nothing. I don't want anything from you besides to be happy. Right. And it's like, so why are you telling me that I'm manipulative? And this is years ago. So maybe I was at that time.
Do you think that everybody's manipulative?
No.
And maybe not from a place of malintent, but again, it just goes back to how you negotiate with the world, and we all need. We're all here to like survive, and to survive requires navigating this world in a way that's favorable to you, and that's negotiating every day and in some way manipulating the outcome of certain things. You know, it could be something as simple as like, you know, you go into a grocery store and there's only a single pack of chicken that's left. Like maybe some people would be like, oh, you go ahead and take that. Or if you're starving or you have a family to feed or whatever, I guess it just depends on where you're at, you know? And maybe that's a bad example, but I do think that
it's understandable. So for example, what would you do? If you gotta be very, very descriptive. For example, there's a rotisserie chicken right there, right? And it's you. I want to make it equal. It's you and another man who looks to be about your age as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you're both hungry.
If we walk up to,
you're both hungry.
We're both hungry.
Equal time, equal pace and time.
Okay, so here's what I think would likely happen. In my mind, I am wanting to be kind and allow them to take it, but I'm also like, fuck you, I want that chicken, and then I'll sell it to you afterwards for double the price.
See, that's no, genuinely though, like really though, like how would you? Because honestly, I'm not trying to sound angelic and whatnot, but I always do I would like fucking take it.
It also depends on
I'll go cook. I'll go buy some raw chicken and cook it. Fuck it.
Right.
You take it.
Yeah.
You need it more than me. In my mind, that's also condescending though, because I'm like, you need it more than me.
And we also live in a place where, like, so rotisserie chicken. We live in where we go into a grocery store, and there's so many.
That's the title of the episode.
There's so many food options. You know, like, oh well, fuck. Maybe I don't need rotisserie chicken tonight. Maybe I'll get just regular chicken thighs or something like that.
I think I know what you're missing, man.
What?
You need exertion.
Exertion, like
physical,
sex?
Real physical, like.
Well, that's what boxing and weightlifting is for.
Are you doing that?
Yeah.
You need more.
I need more.
Yeah, because, dude, I'm telling you, when I train bad.
Well, really, I mean, I
train aggressively.
I think
because I need it though.
Yeah. Well, okay. So in general, I don't actually really enjoy weight training that much. I enjoy boxing because it sharpens my mind in a place.
If that works, that works. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just so much more meditative, and I enjoy the feeling a lot more. There's more of a
big time. I mean, dude, yes.
You know? But I like weight training because I like feeling strong. So I don't really lift for like the feeling of like hypertrophy. I lift because I like to be strong.
Hey, so here's the misconception with me, man. And I've had the guy who was supposed to be here on last weekend, one more water.
No, I'm good.
Last weekend, we're on the phone, and he was telling me like how his perception of me was, because he's always known about me in the scene. And he's like, yeah, I remember like there's a lot of rumors about you when I first came to the scene, because I used to wear cutoff. Remember I used to wear cutoff?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And they're just like, oh yeah, he's just a buff douchebag. I'm like, bro, because you guys are not. You're gonna like body shame me.
Yeah.
You're gonna body shame me, and body shaming wasn't even a thing back then.
Yeah.
But people assume, even now, and I understand. I got it today. They assume because I lift and I'm physically in shape, that I'm lifting for hypertrophy and so on and so forth.
Right.
They don't understand that I need this mentally, and I'm literally not working out for hypertrophy. I just look this way because I work out so hard. I'm not doing bodybuilding stuff. Yeah. I'm just working out to just get it all out. Like,
right.
Oh, it feels so good. It's like we get tired.
Yeah.
But I do get a lot of shit, man. I got shit when I first came to Tucson in the music scene, in my industry. Like I was a douchebag because it's a typical.
Yeah, well, I mean, people get offended when somebody has the moxie or the.
Well, they call it
just
what did Choose used to say? Just Choose to say don't be intimidating. Intimidating. It's intimidating.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're in shape. You're good looking, you have the flowy hair, then you have the skill set. you have all these. Well, I mean, because as people, we judge aesthetically. It's just like it's a human nature, it's an anthropological thing that we do.
Models, celebrities,
right? And when you see somebody that's attractive and talented or whatever like that, it's like we get insecure about ourselves. And
I see anybody taller than me, I get insecure. And that's like 90% of the population, dude.
I was going to say like 98, but...
Damn, it is 98, dude. It is. That sucks. Dude, I wish I was tall.
Who?
I wish I was tall.
Well,
go ahead.
I wish I had your flowy hair.
Oh, she's.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff makes sense to me. People do get insecure about stuff,
Yeah.
especially if you're not. I think the first thing is like if you're in shape, the first thing is like, oh, you're full of shit. You're full of yourself.
Meathead.
You're a meathead, or you're full of yourself.
Yeah.
Or you're egotistical.
But that was back
self-centered, and all
then,
that
remember?
stuff.
Before the whole world changed.
Yeah, now now it seems like if you're on social media, it seems like everybody's in shape now, and it's like
Yeah, but
a
it's
very
called
similar
angles.
thing. Say anals?
Angles.
Oh, I thought you said anal. I'm like,
Yeah, bro.
whoa, that shit took
No,
like a
it's-
hard twist.
It's angles. People do angles
Right, yeah.
where
It's
they
angles
look
and
like
lighting.
yeah, and it's and contouring with the
Yeah.
makeup.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's a
And filters
and filters
and photoshopping
and so it goes layer upon layer upon layer.
yeah. There's
So what do you think now that you're single? I mean, you think because you sort of right now I'm getting a jest that you're somewhat a little pessimistic,
definitely not pessimistic. I would say that
realistic, analytical.
Well, okay, wait, hold on. What's your question exactly?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I do know. No, I do know the question. I do know the question. I'm just trying to. I want to phrase it properly.
Where am I at right now in my life?
Yeah, no. I just like. Are you currently focused on being happy with yourself with therapy and so on and so forth,
Yeah.
or are you like on the search for a relationship? Like, for example, like I said last night, I had to deal with watching a show called Love Is Blind, which I freaking don't like because I just psychology of it all and the reality TV show of it all. I just don't like it all. But it was fun watching it with people who do want to watch it.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, if we're gonna sit here, I'm gonna be here and watch this. I need to get buzzed so I can at least enjoy this nonsense. So we're all drinking, and it was a blast because we're talking shit. This bitch, this fucking look at the hair, just drama, right? And but they're so desperate in pursuit of a significant other that they're willing to go on television, you know, and it's like it's a lot of underlining psychological things that I question. I'm like, they feel incomplete without a significant other.
Is this the show where they don't get to meet each other until I don't even know whatever? They're like talking to like a weird frosted glass and getting to because the idea is like let's get to know each other without the beauty, whatever.
It's cool concept, concept. But my question was to you was, are you like
going on the show?
No, like it's a special announcement and stuff. Imagine you'd be great because you'd be great on it. But
I have so many fucked up questions. I would.
But you'd be great, dude.
Like, what's your trauma? Let's get to
I think you're a little curious into trauma right now. I think that's your subject of interest right now.
It is. It's really fascinating to me. I think that,
when did it begin,
dude? It's I really think that before it became like a well talked about thing, and before therapy, there was always through boxing. You spend so much time trying to master your mind because it's so much when you get into a ring or when you're training, it comes down. It's not the physicality of it. It's 100% mental, 100% physical. And if you go in there and your mind isn't right, then the body isn't going to be able to take you the distance, right? So self-mastery for me came from that. Being introspective, I think came from that, but I also think it's a little inherent to my personality. Being sensitive and being aware of things and how you feel. These are all things I think that I've always been aware of, but I think what therapy is giving is context. You know, it's giving me context and how to give names to things that I have been thinking about for probably all my life, or at least as long as I've been able to think about it. And when you have context and you have information, it changes your perspective.
Has filming and cinematography taken a back seat?
No, I think that filming is the only thing that I've come across in my life that has been as mentally, emotionally, and physically challenging as boxing. So I think in every way and everything that I miss in boxing, because my hope at one time was to be a professional fighter, but I got the detached retina, career over, blah. So boxing, it was always been the thing that fed my soul. You know, it was my anchor. With film, it gave me that new, I guess, lease on life in the sense that it supplanted what boxing used to be. It challenges me emotionally, intellectually, in every way that you can be challenged, because it takes repetitions, and you only get out what you put in. There's so many correlations between film and boxing.
Big time.
So many correlations that I love. It's challenging in every possible way. So yeah, I use boxing a lot as analogies, because I think it's very representative of life, because in a lot of ways, life is very much like a prize fight, You're having to get off the stool between rounds. You're having to take your beatings and you go back and contemplate everything. And do I get up? Do I quit? Whatever. Life is very much like that, at least from my point of view. So I think as far as like where I'm at in my life right now, I'm very optimistic because I've never had more clarity on who I want to become and who I see myself as, and accepting myself and all of the shit that I've done and that I've been through. But I think it's creating actionables that consistently, committing to the actionables that create the discipline that get me to where I want to be without worrying about the insecurities and the self-sabotage, and knowing how to check in on my mental state from time to time when I'm feeling those things kind of seep in, because they seep in, but checking in on those moments. And when you check in on those moments, you're able to have those honest conversations. And I think when you can do that, you could always move forward. You're not hindered by anything. And I feel like that's where I'm at. I really feel like as I'm 39, getting ready to enter my 40s, I'm like, dude, I have such a different perspective on what the last 30 years have been for me. And I feel so much wiser and so much more, just prepared for what it's going to take for me to actually get to that place that I've always believed that I could be, but didn't have the confidence or didn't have the barriers,
self-control,
the self-sabotage, to get to those places. So that's very much where I'm at right now. And as far as like relationships go, I mean, I'll always be open to that. I think
all genders,
no, not all genders. All colors, maybe, but not genders.
Oh, why
There's
not?
only one gender that
Come
I
on,
really,
man. Open up,
man.
You're growing. You're progressing. Come on.
Not that way.
I'm just kidding.
Not that way.
But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I think even having a healthy understanding of the failed relationships that I've had in the past and why they failed, and taking ownership over those failures and the reasonings why, and thinking like all those relationships gave me something. They showed me a flaw. They showed me even the good things about myself. So it's like, what's good, but it's the bad things that you had to work on. And what are those bad things? Why are they happening? Why are they reoccurring? All that.
Well, the worst case scenario would have been is if you didn't learn shit.
If I didn't learn to shit?
No, if that'd be the worst case scenario if you didn't learn shit from those experiences.
Right, which
that's the worst case scenario.
I think a lot of people go through that.
They do.
A lot of people don't take the time to deepen their understandings of their mistakes.
You'd be surprised. There's a lot. There's a lot that don't. But I gotta take a tinkle again.
Oh yeah.
But
I do too.
let's take a break. Let's
Well, you're already 2 hours in.
Oh my damn.
Damn, that went by fast.
2 hours?
Holy shit.
Dude, that's why
I feel like we could talk like another couple of hours.
Oh, 100%. A break?
An intermission?
We out. Ooey, ooey.